You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me
You're listening to Making Tracks and a very special episode as we return once again to Newark Showground and Festival of the Force. Today is Star Wars Podcast Day, where we celebrate the 26th anniversary of the debut of Jedi Talk, the very first recognised Star Wars podcast. I had the great fortune to be the stage host for the day's events. I sat down with a number of guests, including Alan Ruscoe and Andy Secombe. Alan was Plo Koon, Dulce Dauphine, and a number of other characters in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And of course, Andy was Watto in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So here's myself, Alan and Andy at Festival of the Force, talking all about their time in the Star Wars galaxy. Big round of applause for our guests, please.
Hello.
Tell us your names and what do you do? It's like blind date, isn't it?
Legal. My name is Alan Ruscoe. I used to wear rubber, and I'm an actor.
My name is Andy Secombe, and I play Watto in something called Star Wars.
A communal thing that I can think of initially is that you were both in Phantom Menace, which back in the day was quite the project. It was the return of Star Wars after a number of years, not counting the special editions, but it's something new to give to fans. When you both came into that project, and obviously you came in at separate times, how first of all, Alan, how did that role come to you?
I was minding my own business in 1997. A year beforehand, I'd been in a film called The Fifth Element, directed by Luc Besson. The head of Creatures was a gentleman called Nick Dudman. I rapped on that. A year went by. I got a phone call from my agent at the time, just on a random Tuesday afternoon or whatever it was, and she went, you're not going to believe this. Do you know somebody called Nick Dudman? And I went, yeah, I work with him on The Fifth Element, his creature effects, blah, blah, blah. You've been recommended to Lucasfilm. They want to know if you want a job on the next Star Wars film. I dropped the phone. Literally dropped the phone and picked it up. She went, this is not a wind-up. They want to have a look at you. They want a casting. You've got to go to Warwick Avenue, rather nice part of West London, to this very pretty townhouse to meet the casting director, who was Robin Gurland. Okay, great, marvellous. So I went along. I walked in and Robin said, don't worry, this is just a formality. You've come highly recommended. This is George.
Oh, wow.
This guy with a beard and check shirt was sitting there. And I went, hello. And he sat there, not saying a word. And they had me doing little bits of camera. I finished it, and Robin looked at George, and he went, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. And that's what happened. And then they said, we'll be in touch. And I was taken on as Plo Koon first. Shortly afterwards, within a few days really, Dauphine, Dulce Dauphine, the speaking part. And then while I was filming Plo Koon, Nick Dudman came up to me and said, do you want to play Bib Fortuna? Yes. It was just for a day. The scene didn't make it into the films. It's the Senate scene where Bib is basically there causing trouble. Originally, it was him that started the vote of no confidence against Valorum, flapping his gums. And it made more sense dramatically for Padme to actually call for the vote. So they didn't actually use that shot, or that series of shots, which is... It's a shame, but that's filmmaking. That's the way it goes. So that's how I got involved in it. It was all very bizarre and surreal, and it's not really stopped being bizarre and surreal. And I call it a lovely madness. That's probably the best way of putting it.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Andy, how about yourself?
Well, a similar story to Alan, actually. I was working at the time, I was running an animation company with a friend of mine. We were called Lunchtime Productions because we spent most of the time having lunch. We didn't do a lot of work. And we'd done a couple of things for Channel 4. We had an ongoing thing on BBC Two, little bits and pieces. But because we were in this big book of producers in and around London, we'd get called by various production companies, asking for their recommendations for voiceover talent. Because we used to keep costs down, we used to voice all our own productions. You earn more money that way as well. And got a call one day, and I picked the phone up. I said, "Hello, it's Lunchtime Productions." And they said, "Could you, American voice, could you recommend your best voiceover artists?" I said, "Well, me. I'm the best one here." And I said, "What's it for?" And she said, "Well, we're in town. I work for Lucasfilms." And I did the same thing. I dropped the phone. And I said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, we're casting for the new Star Wars." I said, "Of course you are." And she said, "Would you like to come up and audition?" It was in Leavesden Studios, which then was still kind of just a big wasteland. There was nothing on it. And so I went up to Leavesden Studios a couple of days later, which was basically the control tower. And walked in, met Robin Gurland. There was a couple of line drawings of this weird-looking figure called Watto. And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And she said, "Well, dear, this character is, he's kind of rough. He's a bit icky, he's got mafia connections, perhaps." I said, "Well, okay." So I thought, There was a character I was doing, which was a dog in the thing we'd been recording, and he talked like that. So I thought, well, I'll give it that, and I'll give him a bit of an Italian connection as well. So I came up with this, and she seemed to like it. I recorded me saying various lines, and she played it to George later on, and he seemed to like it. And so then next week I was phoned up again, and they said, "We'd like you to come in and be at the read-through." I said, "Does this mean I've got the part?" She said, "No." "Oh, okay." She said, "But we do like you. We like you a lot." Right, okay. So I went for the first reading of the script. And this big round table. There's everybody there. I mean, they're all. I'm the least famous person in the room. And then George Lucas walks in, and I thought at first he'd come to fix the radiator because he looked like a plumber. He was wearing jeans around his bum and this check shirt and this huge belly. "Hi, everyone. Okay, yeah, we can start now." So I was reading several characters, and I gave them all different voices, which you don't really do with the read-through, but it made George laugh, and I think that's why in the end I actually got the role, and that's how it happened.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Best, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
If I'm correct, I think you two and Paul Blake are the only people here this weekend that were directed by George. Obviously, you're doing Phantom and Paul doing A New Hope. So, what was it like being directed by George? Is the cliche true? Is there more to him as a director? Oh, no, clearly there's plenty to him as a director, but...
He's not as hands-off as you think. Although I did actually say when we were in pre-production to some of the Creatures guys, it's going to be great, because he must work really well with actors. And these three Creatures guys just went, you'll see. The thing that kind of distills everything down and sums George up, and I'm not mocking him when I say this. At one point when I was filming Dauphine, I got the animatronic head on. I was about 15, 20 feet in the air on this blue block with green behind me. It was the battleship bridge. And for some reason, my eye mechanism, the blink, stopped working on the mask, and it jammed shut. So I couldn't see. I was standing on the edge of this plinth, and I had an earpiece and a microphone, not for looping, but just so everybody knew what was going on. So I could hear everything in any direction that came through my earpiece. And the blink stopped, and I'm literally on the edge of this block going straight down 15, 20 feet. And I just heard George in my ear say, Alan, don't move. Whatever you do, don't move. Just don't move. I won't do the impersonation. Don't move. And then he didn't switch it off, and I heard him say, if he falls and breaks that mask, we'll never be able to replace it. In a very fun way, that sums him up. Because it's completely logical. It makes perfect sense. You know, the mask cost several £1,000s, and I didn't. Also, I'd heal. So from a certain point of view, no use of coining a phrase intended, it did make sense. Jobbing actors do get a lot of comments like that, and you get used to it. It's the way it is. I actually told a story very briefly. I told a story earlier on. I was up for a casting for some film, and I walked into this casting suite in Victoria in South London, and it's this American casting director for this film. And she was on the phone, and the waiting room was literally almost by her desk. This is what it's like, the difference between being a jobbing actor and a star. And she was on the phone, and she was talking to Michael Sheen's agent. I say talking, she was begging. And she was saying, oh, please, no, just let Michael see the script. If he just sees the script, he'll love it. Just meet the director, just have dinner with the director. Begging and pleading for like 10 minutes to get Michael Sheen even interested in this project. She put the phone down, there was me and this other guy, and she just looked at us and went, right, you, next. That's the difference. But that's, yeah, the thing about the mask, that sums it up, really. It does make sense, although it can't help at the time to bruise your ego a bit.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
George always said to me, he said, I'm not going to direct you because I do all that work in the casting. He always maintained that if he cast it right, he didn't need to direct, or not direct very much. And the only bit of direction he gave me was, it was during the scene with Liam. We're walking through the junkyard, and he's come to pick up, he wants a T14 hyperdrive. I take him to show him where it is, and it's he tries to pay in Republic credits. Republic credits are no good, and all that stuff. We had to. It was quite a long walk, and we were talking all the while. It didn't time. We couldn't get it to time. We'd finished the dialogue before we got to the end, or we'd get to the end and there'd be still more dialogue. It was slow, fast. We couldn't work it out. And so he gave me wonderful direction. He said, can you do it faster but slower? But I knew what he meant. That's the thing. So that's his genius. But that's the only bit of actual proper direction I ever got from him.
Do you guys appreciate that he's cast you for your talents, and that's the casting, that's the direction, that's like, I know you guys have got it, so you guys go and do it.
It's certainly better than being over-directed. I've worked with directors who just over-direct everything. I shot an advert a few years ago for John Lewis, and everything was down to the beat of everything. He storyboarded everything himself, and if it was slightly off, then it was another take. And so it's actually quite nice not to have a director that over-directs. Yeah, thankfully, he is somebody, he trusts his people. That's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Yeah.
Plo Koon is probably the role that people associate you with the most. But looking at the roles that you did across the two films, you played 3 Nemoidians?
2 Nemoidians. So Phantom Menace was Plo Koon, Dulce Dauphine, who I do have a soft spot for. To be the worst Nemoidian in the room amongst the Nemoidians is quite an achievement. And to get fired, that's quite something.
Was he get that stunted slime out of my sight?
I am that stunted slime, yeah. Actually, when we did that, the first take, my hat was kind of up here. I'd forgot about it. And the first thing I did when I turned around was hit one of the lights, and we had to do it again. The crew weren't happy. And then I shot this little bit of Bib Fortuna, which didn't make the cut. Episode 2, I did Lot Dodd and a bit of Plo Koon for the Geonosis battle scene. But credit to Matt Sloan, who did most of it for episode 2 and 3. And bless him, he had to wear my mask. Yeah, and he actually sent me an email saying, "You've got the strangest face I've ever seen. I've got to wear your mask." I don't blame him. I mean, I was skinnier then. I had cheekbones for a start. But yeah, he was like, "How do you wear that?" And I went, "Well, it's made for my face. It's not made for yours." And he went through a lot of discomfort because it wasn't made for him. Don't envy him at all. And he is the majority of Plo Koon that you see and was quite rightly credited for it.
Fantha Tracks. Voodoo!
It's quite relevant that we should have you on stage this weekend because we've learned this week that in a comic that's recently been released, it sounds like Watto might have met his end.
Yeah, I only just heard it myself today. Somebody came out and said, "Did you know you Watto's just been killed by Darth Vader?" I thought there's gratitude for you.
I know.
After I brought him up so well, bloody Anakin. I'm deeply upset, but I'm trying to start a movement now that's a Watto resurgence movement. Yeah. I think Watto should rise again like the phoenix. Force Ghost.
I think everybody here would sign that, definitely.
I'll come round later on with a piece of paper.
Final question before we let you guys go back to your tables. A brand new event. It's been wonderfully attended. It's in a nice part of the world as well. How much do you enjoy getting out, chatting to folks, doing talks? You still get a kick out of it?
Absolutely. I actually retired from the circuit for a while in 2017. I just thought, I don't want to be one of those guys that goes to the opening of an envelope. And I felt that my time had come and gone because obviously you got the sequel trilogy, you got all the other stuff that was coming. And so I didn't want to be old news. And at the time, my weekends were kind of precious to me and lots of other things. And then I got asked to do a convention in 22, and I initially said no. And I thought, hang on a minute. And I went. And I'd forgotten how nice it is and how kind everybody is. And it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. They're a wonderful thing. And anybody that actually wants to give you their time and say hello, that's a sweet thing. And it's not something that jobbing actors get. So it's kind of nice. I'm dragging my tired behind across the world, telling these stories, and people want to hear them because I'm part of something that I was lucky enough to be a very, very, very small cog in a very big machine. And that's an honor. It is a privilege because it doesn't happen to many people. So, no, it's great. And this event, they've done well.
They've done very well.
Yeah, very pleased with it.
Yeah, there's no small roles in Star Wars.
Oh, there is. I was one of them.
Well, no, I second that. We're very lucky. I count myself very lucky to be part of this franchise, and it's taken me to extraordinary places. I've been all over the world. It's been really wonderful, and you meet wonderful people. It's just really, really nice. When the film first came, when Phantom Menace first came out, back, when was it, 2000 or something? I got a phone call from someone in America saying, "Would you like to do a convention?" I said, "What's that?" I had no idea. Then they said, "Well, you come and you meet the fans and sign autographs." And I said, "Okay." And I was so naive, I didn't even have any photographs. Things have changed now, and I know what's expected of me. But it's a great thing to do. It's wonderful to meet people, and people really are extraordinarily genuine in their enthusiasm for this thing. As actors, it's very easy to get blasé about the whole. Oh yes, darling, Star Wars. Oh yes, I did that years ago, but it's still alive. And you can't you can't deny that fact. You can't well, you're all here, It's wonderful. Star Wars lives, As I say, I feel very proud and privileged to be a part of that.
That's wonderful. We're very privileged to have you on stage. Big round of applause. Thank you very much.
available for bar mitzvahs, pantomimes, adverts.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show Good Morning Tatooine goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Start Your Engines.